everybody. You are in session 4-2 of SPAFACON 2021, day 4. In this session, we have with us 3 panelists who will discuss topics relating to dance, music, and photography, respectively. Please note that each panelist has 20 minutes to present their research. When there are 5 minutes remaining in the presentation, a reminder will be posted in the chat box. If you continue beyond the allotted 20 minutes, the moderator, me, has been suggested by his colleague to stand up and perform a song and dance. If the audience have questions or comments, the Q&A will be at the end of the session after all the speakers have concluded their presentations. Please use the Q&A box for questions. We will not tend to questions in the chat box. Every day we will randomly select 2 questions from the audience to win a prize. And the winners will be contacted after the conference. Furthermore, conference proceedings will be released online on Friday, tomorrow. For our first panelist, we have Dharakorn Chandnasaro, who is an assistant professor of dance at Sri Nakarin Wirod University in Bangkok, Thailand. Dharakorn's interests include ballet, contemporary dance, as well as Thai theater and dance. And his research focuses on dance notation, history, performance, and gender concerns. Now let's invite Dharakorn to present a historical study and dance moves recording with Labnotation.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Okay, share screen. Just a moment. Can see my screen?
Could you turn the volume of your mic on so that we could hear you better?
Okay, just a moment. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just a moment. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dharakorn Chandnasaro from Dance Department at Sri Nakarin Wirod University from Thailand. Today, I would like to talk about my article. The title is The Series of Archaeological Dance, a Historical Study in Dance Move Recording with Labnotation. But firstly, I would like to present a brief outline on my topic. Introduction, the series of archaeological dance, unique dance posture of the series of archaeological dance, recording the dance with Labnotation, and the last topic is conclusion. Okay, the origin of performing arts is not different from music. Visual arts and other arts which occur along with the development of human beings who began to think, invent, and create basic cultures of life since the Paleolithic age. Performing arts refer to the drama and dance of human beings with physical movement accompanied by singing and playing music. Furthermore, the dance in each human culture reflects a different way of life, belief, traditions, and important events. Academia in Thailand history gave to the conclusion that in the past, the territory of Thailand was an era with diverse culture. Important historical evidence is the ancient art discovered in Thailand, which indicate different ethnic civilizations within Thailand in the past. Later, the art history era was categorized by the evidence of art objects, ancient inscriptions, and archive found in Thailand, and information from the comparison of similar information on cultures and in neighboring countries. in Thailand, there is a dance that arises from the evidence of artifacts from different periods. During the 11th to 21st Buddhist century, which is called as a series of archaeological dance. The information of the art in each period can be summarized as follows. The first is Tawaravadi art, Srivichaya art, Lopburi art, Chiang San art, and Sukhothai art. The series of archaeological dance is a concept of dance creation during in 20th century. Mr. Thanit Yupo, former Director General of the Fine Arts Department, has initiated the exploration and excavation for general antiques. When arts and antiques are discovered, they will be displayed at the National Museum in order to use as evidence and to facilitate research studies, especially in art and antiques discovered in Thailand based on evidence and research from various artistic sources, such as antiques, ancient sites, ancient inscription, and archive of Thailand and neighboring countries. In this regard, there is a cooperation from Thailand experts in music, dance, and visual arts, namely the composer who is Mr. Montri Tramod, the choreographers including ท่านผู้หญิงแพ้วสนิทวงศ์เสนี Mrs. Lamun Yamakup and Mrs. เฉลยสุขวณิช and the costume designer who is Mr. สนิทดิษฐพันธ์ Art, antiques, and artifacts from 5 periods were used to create a series of archaeological dance. The name of each period were applied as the name of each dance, namely Tawaravadi dance, Srivichaya dance, Lopburi dance, Chiang San dance, and Sukhothai dance. Each set is exhibited as an independent performance with no related content to each other. The series of archaeological dance were performed for the first time in the time of His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great and Her Majesty Queen Sirikit preside over the opening of the ancient art exhibition in a new building at the Bangkok National Museum on 25 May 1967. Later, the series of dance became widely popular and performed in many occasions until the present. The first dance is Tawaravadi dance. Tawaravadi dance was created by investigating, researching, and inventing dance posture, musical instruments, and costume from the sculptures and etched image excavated at the Tawaravadi archaeological sites, such as Kubua sub-district in Ratchaburi province, Utong district in Suphanburi province, Mueang Khok Mai Dan, and Mueang Chan Sen in Nakhon Sawan province, and in the Nakhon Pathom province area. The evidence found were considered by archaeological scholars that the people of Tawaravadi are Mon, or a tribe that speaks Mon language. Therefore, the music and dance posture in this dance has a Mon mood and tone. The choreographers are Mrs. Lamun Yamakup and Mrs. เฉลย สุขวณิช The second dance is Srivichaya dance. The Srivichaya dance exists in the middle of 1966. The Thai ambassador in Kuala Lumpur at that time informed that the Prime Minister of Malaysia had an intention to have dance from Thailand to be filmed as a part of movie called Raja Bersiong. Therefore, he asked the Fine Art Department to prepare 2 dances, namely the Satchatri dance first, and the second dance is the Srivichaya dance. It was necessary to study and research on Srivichaya dance and investigate for a model for the dance creation, both from etching images at the Borobudur Stupa and ancient antique of the Srivichaya period that were found in the southern part of Thailand. Many historical and archaeological scholars have concluded that Borobudur Stupa belonging to the Sriwijaya contemporary silent dynasty. It was built around the end of the 8th century, so that the dance posture was invented according to the etching image and mixed with the posture of Javanese dance. The choreographer are Mrs. Lamun Yamakup and Mrs. Chaloi Sukhavanit. The third dance is Lopburi dance. Lopburi dance does not refer to the provincial dance or the local dance of Lopburi province, but it refers to a dance created based on ancient artifacts and ancient sites which was influenced by Khmer or created according to Khmer art, as seen in Cambodia in Thailand, such as Prapang Sam Yod in Lopburi province, Prasat Hin Phimai in Nakhon Ratchasima province, and Prasat Hin Phnom Rung in Buriram province. The archaeologists defined a period of these ancient sites as Lopburi art. Even they were imitated in Thailand, but reflects the influence of Khmer, but with some different characteristics to create our own uniqueness. For this reason, the melody has Khmer mood and tone, and the dance was created from the etching image of the stone carved from antiques and ancient sites. The choreographers are Mrs. Lamun Yamakup and Mrs. Chaloi Sukhavanit. The fourth dance is Chiang San Dance. Chiang San Dance was built according to the art and antiques and ancient sites of the Chiang San period. Center of the right bank of the Mekong River in the northern Thailand, in the area of Chiang San district in Chiang Rai province. Chiang San period art has spread throughout the northern Thailand, which was called Lana Kingdom in the ancient times. They also spread down the Mekong River into the Lao Kingdom, and then forward back into Thailand in the upper northeast as well. For this reason, the Chiang San dance has traditional northern culture mood and tone, mixed with the indigenous culture of the upper northeast. The choreographers are Mrs. Lamun Yamakup and Mrs. Chaloi Sukhavanit. The last dance of this series is Sukhothai dance. Sukhothai is the name of the former Thai kingdom. The capital city was established in the Sukhothai province. It is considered a kingdom with a high purpose in terms of economy, society, and culture. There are many artistic creations that are typical of the Sukhothai kingdom. The evidence from many ancient sites such as Sukhothai province, Kampang Phet province, and Phitsanulok province were found. Even later, the Sukhothai kingdom lost its political power, but Sukhothai art has spread its influence into the Lana kingdom in the north and in the kingdom of Ayutthaya in the south of Thailand. The stucco and bronze Buddha image in the Sukhothai period are regarded as the most beautiful fine arts. In particular, the Buddha image in a posture of pacing and slitting of his finger, which admirable and beautiful. It is also evident in the inscriptions indicating that the people in the Sukhothai kingdom enjoyed the arts of music and dance. This reveals that the art of dance in the Sukhothai period was the most advanced as well as other field of arts. Hence, Sukhothai dance was created from the accent and words in the inscriptions together with the stucco style of the Sukhothai Buddha image. The choreographer was Than Pu Ying Phao Sanit Wong Seni. Okay. Unique dance posture of the series of archaeological dance. The series of archaeological dance consists of dance posture inspired the antique and ancient sites used as a model in a creation of each dance. The excavated artwork from each era were intricate in their creation in harmonious with Thai dance posture according to imagination of the choreographers. having the movement linked from one posture to another posture in a harmonious way. The movement of the series of archaeological dance is different from traditional Thai dance, as it came from the art appear on the antique and ancient side with repetition posture, most of which are repeat 6 to 12 times. The posture with the unique identity of the series of archaeological dance are Thawaravadi dance, representing the uniqueness of Thawaravadi people or Mon people. Sriwijaya dance, representing the uniqueness of the people of Sriwijaya kingdom or Chwa. Lopburi dance, representing the posture in the etching image found in the Khmer castle. Chiang San Dance, representing gentle dance and posture based on the indigenous culture in the north. And the last dance is Sukhothai dance, representing uniqueness of dance posture from the Buddha image in the posture of the Sukhothai period. The recording the dance with Labnotation. Labnotation or kinetography Laban is the system of recording movement originated by Rudolf Laban in the 1920s. By this now scientifically based method, all forms of movement ranging from the simplest to the most complex can be accurately written. Its usefulness to dancer is obvious. The system had also been successfully applied to every field in which there is the need to record motions of the human body, such as anthropology, athletics, and physiotherapy, etc. It was also found that Labnotation started to be disseminated and officially became well known in Thailand in 1987 from a workshop organized by Simeo SPAFA. Based on its importance, the study record the dance posture of the series of archaeological dance using Labnotation, where's the sample of dance posture that are unique in the each set were selected from the recording as follows. The slide show the glossary of 6 hands posed in the series of archaeological dance that I use Labnotation for record the hands posture. This is the Labnotation score in Thawaravadi dance. I selected the 2 sequence of the each dance. This score is Sriwijaya dance. This score is Lopburi dance. This score is represent the Chiang San dance, and the last score showing the Sukhothai dance. The 5 series of dance I try to use Labnotation for recording the movement. Okay. Conclusion. The series of archaeological dance was the idea of creation of Thai dance in the 20th century of Thailand, created by Mr. Thanit Yupo, the former Director General of Fine Art Department, with intention to publish knowledge and on ancient antique discovery in Thailand during the 11th to 21 Buddhist century, based on evidence of creation from arts of stucco, ancient scripture, archive, ancient remains, and other kinds of ancient antique. The name of each era was used as the name of 5 dance, including Thawaravadi dance, Sriwijaya dance, Lopburi dance, Chiang San dance, and Sukhothai dance. The series of archaeological dance was firstly performed when King Ramanai and Queen Sirikit opened an ancient antique exhibition held at the new building of Bangkok National Museum on 1967. Subsequently, the series of archaeological has become popular and published, and it has been performed in various occasions up till now. From analyzing unique dance move of the archaeological dance, the result revealed that the choreographer of this dance move relied on her own imagination based on her foundation on Thai theater and dance. Each dance has atmosphere of ethnics. There are similar Thai ethnic or Siam in the past. Okay, to record Thai dance move Labnotation. It is a kind of recording method that has been preferred to use with dance of every race. It could record unique dance moves of the series of archaeological dance correctly and precisely, and it was also able to be developed by developing dance notation scores to research on Thai dance and analyze on body movement in the following opportunities. Okay, then this brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope that it has been to interest of you, and if anyone has any question, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you very much for attending and being here to listen to me. ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you, Dharakorn. Questions and comments will be attended to at the end of this session. We'll move on to our second panelist, who is Arsenio Nicolas, who teaches Asian music, ethnomusicology, and music history and archaeology at the College of Music, Mahasarakham University, Thailand. Arsenio's current project is on the music archaeology of Southeast Asia and musical exchanges between India, China, and Southeast Asia. He has taken part in 3 SPAFACONs, 2013, 2016, 2019, and now this in 2021. So he is regarded as SPAFACON's seasoned contributor extraordinaire. For this reason, we are very glad to have him with us again for this session. Arsenio will present a paper on musical instruments on the 16th century Angkor Wat bas reliefs. Please take it from here, Maestro.
Am I clear now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody in Thailand, and Sawadee Krap. My presentation today is about the musical instruments on the 16th century bas-reliefs in the North Gallery East Wing of Angkor Wat, its dating and significance. The outline of my presentation is the following. I'd like to introduce Angkor Wat to those who have not been there. And then I will talk about the dating, the 16th century dating, and then survey of musical instruments in the 4 galleries, 8 wings of the 3rd enclosure, and then circle gongs and boss gongs, and survey of contemporary forms of gong circles and gongs in a row in Southeast Asia. This is Angkor Wat. On the left side, you have a very beautiful picture of from the west entrance, and on the right picture from the east entrance. The west entrance is the where you enter the temple, and you know that Angkor Wat is surrounded by a moat. There's the bridge that connects it to the mainland. The topic of my paper is on this North Gallery West Wing. So you enter through this bridge and you have this wall, and then you go through the causeway, and then you have the 3rd enclosure, sorry. Then you go up to the 2nd enclosure, and then to the 1st enclosure in the top tier. Based on the 2 inscriptions dated 1546 and 1564 on the walls of the North Gallery East Wing and the East Gallery North Wing of the 12th century Angkor Wat, George Sedea, has dated the completion of the bas-reliefs on these wings to the 16th century. This dating finally underscores that the bas-reliefs on the walls of the galleries of the third enclosure of Angkor Wat were not all carved during the reign of a single Khmer monarch. More significantly is the presence of both gongs solely in the North Gallery East Wing, where in other galleries, gongs are not illustrated. Two types of both gongs are carved: suspended both gongs, single or in pairs, and single gongs with 8 to 9 both gongs. This is the first inscription. You can read this more fully in the article later, but here I'd like to show you the date. And this is the second inscription showing the completion of the project. An effort was made to complete in 1485 of the year Saka. The four galleries with two wings each that provide protective walls to the inner parts of Angkor Wat along the west-east galleries and north-south galleries spans a total of some 521 meters of wall spaces with about 2 meters wide or height. These very long galleries and high walls certainly needed a monumental plan to decorate the bas-reliefs with bas-reliefs of 8 narratives and employ at various times at least 8 groups of designers and artists to work on the reliefs, one for each wing, evidenced by the diverse artistic styles of each wing, and regards the topic of this paper, the presence or absence of musical instruments in these wings. With the 16th century dating, the carving of the bas-reliefs on the North Gallery, East Gallery, North Wing appears to be the last project undertaken on the third enclosure after all the other wings had been completed. The creation of the bas-reliefs of the 8 galleries of the third enclosure of Angkor Wat did not happen in one single reign of the Angkor monarchs. Suryavarman II founded Angkor and was constructed by the temple was constructed by his successor Jayavarman. The bas-reliefs along the northeast gallery enclosure were left unfinished, and it may be that the construction was abandoned after the death of Suryavarman II around 1150. This idea of abandonment is supported by the discovery of drawings at the northwest corner of the second enclosure. Only 2 wings have direct references to Khmer monarchs: the west-south gallery with the narrative of the Battle of Kurukshetra, and the southwest gallery depicts the war exploits of King Suryavarman II. Only 5 of the galleries are adorned with musical instruments, all the musical illustrations of which appear on the lowest tier of the panels. But both gongs are not etched on these 3 galleries, where usually such grand narratives are accompanied with gong music, like the West Gallery South Wing, the Battle of Kurukshetra, the South Gallery West Wing, the historic procession of Suryavarman II, and the East Gallery North Wing is the Battle of Lanka from the Ramayana epic. So I will show you the distribution of musical instruments in the bas-reliefs in the 8 galleries of Angkor Wat based on my field research in 2009 and 2011. Here you have the first column, you have all the galleries, and I placed the length of each gallery here. And then in the middle, you have the narrative story. And then in the third column, you have the instrument. So take note that these two wings do not have any musical illustrations. In the North Gallery East Wing, which is 66 meters long, the subject of my paper, you have all these musical instruments. And then the other 2 galleries, and then there is a pavilion also with drums, horn, oboes, and cymbals. Now you see how these are distributed. This is the ground map. You enter here, and then you go around this the third enclosure, and the both gongs are here on this wing. This is the entrance to the North Gallery East Wing of Angkor Wat. So you can see that You have the top level, the top tier, the middle level, and the lower tier. And you can see it clearly here. The musical instruments are here, and then you have a middle level here and an upper level. The same is true of this picture on the right. Now, the gong circles that I'm talking about are of two kinds. Gong circles with 8 gongs. You can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The same is on this left picture. And the gong circles with 9 gongs, they're quite small, but here you can see them 1, 2, 3, quite not clearly, but this is a little bit clearer here. We talk about both gongs at the same time that are found on the north gallery east wing. Here you can see clearly that there is the central boss here on which you beat the gong. Also here, the player is seated and you can see the mallet. Now I'm focusing my attention that this gong is suspended by a rope, and it is connected to 2 holes on the rim of the gong. In contrast, the barrel drums are not connected by ropes, but by rings, only 1 ring. But then you can see a central circle in the center here, but this is that spot where you beat the drum. And here it is much clearer. You have here you have the barrel drum with the pedestal, and then you have 2 boss gongs and an array of musical instruments. You have oboes here, 2 string lutes, cymbals, and then you have the gong circle and other instruments. And here is a more beautiful picture of this, the Suryavarman Procession. Here it's very clear that there is only 1 ring that that suspends the big drum on this bar. And you have these 2 long arc horns and 2 short horns here. I am very much in the process of this research. I focused on the contemporary forms of gong circles of horizontal and vertical types to show that the tradition has been continuous over time from at least the 16th century or even the 12th century. And there are a varying number of gongs, 6, 8, 9, and that is 1 group, and 13, 15, 16, 18, 36 in another group. This developed as melodies expanded in range for performances in ensembles across Cambodia, Thailand, and Myanmar. So let's focus on the 6, 8, 9 boss gongs. This is the Kong Mon in Thailand. You have 6 gongs here. And then you have 8 gongs in Cambodia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Note that you have this boss gong, and then this is the barrel drum that is hanging from a ring. And then you have 9 boss gongs in Cambodia. Now circle gongs with 13, 15, 16, 18, and 36 gongs. This is in Myanmar with 13 boss gongs. In Masarakam with 15 gongs. In Surin, Thailand with 16 gongs. This is the Kongwong Yai and Kongwong Lek of our College of Music in Masarakam University. Also 16 gongs. And then this is the upright Pipat Mon ensemble, showing our students playing this ensemble here, also with 16 gongs. And here I am showing this picture, who is the Kong Mon artist in Ayutthaya. This is a very old specimen of the Kong Mon Wong Yai at the National Museum in Bangkok. It has 18 gongs. And during our first field trip to Angkor Wat and Siem Reap in 2009, we visited 4 sites where Pinpiat ensembles were performed. You can go to Bangkyang Temple in Siem Reap. This is 18 gongs here. And then we had the Pinpiat ensemble in Rulos, Siem Reap, led by Om Mongkun. And then we went to an orphan center, also 18 gongs in Khmer, in Rolus. And then the Pinpiat ensemble in the School of Art in Shimra. This is a picture of two xylophones which are depicted in the paintings in Angkor Wat, but they are not carved on the walls of Angkor Wat. This is another 18 boss gongs in Bangkok. As you can see, I think the player has to get inside quite difficult, in a very difficult manner. And here I am measuring the sizes of the gongs. Now this is particularly a very interesting type of 18 gong circle in Myanmar. This is 18, but then there's an additional vertical gong, so 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, which makes up to 31 gongs. I came across this painting in a temple in Wat Bang Yang, here in Mahasarkam. And we do not, xylophones and kongyongyai are not played in any procession, but in the temple, it is represented as such. And then you have here all the other musical instruments of the Eastern region, primarily the kongyao. Conclusions. The wide distribution of gong circles today in Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar attest to the firm tradition of continuity of these musical instruments, along with the others as illustrated on the walls of Angkor. What has been changing is the number of ghost gongs in the frame for the performance of melodies for its ensemble and the diverse musical styles that have developed in the northern part of mainland Southeast Asia. Gongs in rows and gong circles. While there are no temple bas-reliefs of gongs in rows in Thailand, Cambodia, or in Java, the 16th century dating of the gong circles in Angkor Wat provide a basis for ascertaining the relationship between gongs in rows and gong circles in some parts of Southeast Asia. This presupposes that gongs in rows, that is, gongs laid in a horizontal frame, predated the gong circles. Now, this is a very rare specimen of kongrang in the National Museum in Bangkok. It has 8 boss gongs. I think they have moved the musical instruments, because now if you visit the museum, it is newly renovated and redesigned. Now, these are gongs in rows in the Philippines. This is the kulintang. 8 gongs, sometimes they go to 11 or 5. And these are the different types of boss gongs used in the ensemble and drums. And in Bali, you have another type of gongs in a row with 12 gongs. They're called trampong and rayong. But then in Java, you have a double rows of gongs. This is in the palace of Surakarta. You have 6 gongs here and 6 at the back. You have 7 here and 7 at the back. And this is a picture of the same type of instrument in the palace in Yogyakarta. There are no terms that refer to gongs in the list of Sanskrit musical terms from Khmer inscription dated 7th to 11th century. However, the terms kangsa, kangsatala, which meant brass, copper, alloy in Khmer inscriptions dated from 628 to 968, are used today in northern Luzon, Philippines to refer to the flat gongs as gangsa or gongso in High Javanese or gamelan. No both gongs are also illustrated at the 12th century Angkor tomb and the late 12th century Bayon. A study on Khmer bronze metallurgy from the 6th to the 16th century mentioned the manufacture of ritual paraphernalia, but traces of gong smithies or foundries have not been found. Both gongs are not depicted in the 5 galleries which date to the 12th century, and yet the archaeological records have excavated both gongs in 4 shipwrecks on the Gulf of Thailand from the 12th, 13th to the 16th century, and those as far as the Java Sea, Borneo, and Mindanao attest to the presence of wide distribution of both gongs in maritime Southeast Asia. No flat gongs are also illustrated in the bas-reliefs of Angkor Wat, but these have been found, however, in 3 sites in the south of Gulf of Thailand, in 12th century in Riau, and also 12th century in Kinamis Bay in Kota Kinabalu, and in Muara a flat gong with a Chinese inscription with a date of 1231. So here I have this old map showing all the gongs in shipwrecks. Here you have both gongs, and here you have flat gongs. Angkor Wat is here. So my problem here is with the circulation of both gongs from the 12th century, 13th century here, and 13th century in Java Sea, why is it that these gongs are only illustrated in the 16th century walls of Angkor Wat? In closing, the 16th century dating of the North Gallery east wing of the third enclosure of Angkor Wat, based on the 2 inscriptions on the walls of the wing, has provided the basis for dating the bas-reliefs of this wing, where both gongs of 2 types are carved, gong circles and suspended or hanging both gongs. However, until new data is presented, this dating will stay as discussed in this paper. I wish to thank the following persons who have actually been very generous with their pictures and data. And thanks also to the senior SPAFA for organizing this conference. In closing, these are my pictures during my fieldwork, and I thank Professor Manok Bisutipat of the Department of Music in Srinagar in Europe, who invited me to join them in 2009. And then Professor Jeremy Martin of the Paleontology Research and Education Center in Masarakam University in 2011. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arsenio, for that graphic presentation illustrating the long tradition of musical instruments, in particular gongs, with links to the ancient Khmer kingdom. For our final panelists of the session, we have Ahmad Kholdun, who is a student at the Department of Archaeology, Faculty of Cultural Science, Gadjah Mada University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. In his presentation, Ahmad will touch on the historical background of photography in Indonesian archaeology, tracing back to the 1900s, when Dutch institutions collected photographs of monuments, artifacts, and landscape that amounts to a resource of 70,000 documentation archives of Indonesian antiquity. Ahmad, tell us more.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, is my voice clear? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ahmad Kholdun. I'm a student of Archaeology in Gadjah Mada University, Yogyakarta. Yeah, as already introduced, today I'm going to presenting my paper about the photography in Indonesian classical archaeology of the 19th and early 20th century. Okay, so the reason, the idea behind this topic that I'm interested with is that we know the fact that photography had been around with us since a long time, and in the last half of the 19th century, its archaeological activities was importantly developed. And it's turned out the fact that early archaeology in the 19th century already used photography in such an early stage, since let's say the new announcements of the photography. So, and in this case is mostly happening in Europe, which is of course indeed the region in which both the photography and archaeology were initiated. And then the question which then emerged is, how about the case in Indonesia, which is of course back then was Netherlands, India. Another interesting fact is that in Indonesia, real research on archaeology was only happened in the last half of the 19th century. The same periods between the development, the inventions of the photography. So this kind of like intersected timeline, giving me the interest to talk about this topic. Based from the question, there will be two ideas that I'm going to present here. The first one is the history of photography in Indonesian archaeology. We're talking more about the cases, the photographer, the timeline, and the years. And the second one is the use of photography. And here we're talking more about the values in which photography was appreciated for the archaeological activities. Okay, so speaking of the history of photography in Indonesian archaeology, we will encounter some interesting facts. One of which is that the earliest records come to us about the earliest attempt of photography in the archipelago was done by Munich. He was a Dutch medical officer actually, and the idea behind Munich's assignment is basically just to experiment the new technology, which is daguerreotype for the tropical environment of the archipelago. And this experiment was done in 1840, only years later after the announcements of daguerreotype in Paris in 1839. And in that attempt, Monet captured several Indonesian landscape, architecture, and source antiquities. The next attempt was only 3 years later, after 4 years later after what's done by Monet. This in this case is done by Adolf Cipher. Compared to Monet, Cipher was, I'm sorry for my pronunciation. Yeah, so Cipher is basically considered to be more a professional photographer compared to Monet, since he was a photographer himself. He was German photographer. In fact, he learned firsthand with Louis Daguerre, the inventor of daguerreotype. And he also bought his equipment from him in Paris. He proposed a project for the colonial government in Indonesia to capture several photographs for the Batavia Society of Art and Science collection, as well as Borobudur reliefs, the first ever of photographing Borobudurs. And then we find an interesting gap between the project done by Cipher in 1845 and the next gap, and the next project is of photographing like archaeological sites or monument. This was done in 1863. Yeah, this is such a long gap between the two of it. The reason behind this is that both Cipher and Monet we use daguerreotype, which is a silver plate. It's a positive process photograph using a silver plate, which you know that it's not effective considered to the cost of the silver is expensive. So the next photographical project for archaeological sites and monument was only possible after the invention of other photographical technologies such as wet collodion process, which is now done by Theodor van Skinsbergens. He was actually a Dutch actor, artist in general. His photographic career began when he was become the official photographer for the Dutch diplomatic mission to Siam, and after that he then photographed several landscapes in Java and Bali before finally he commissioned by the Batavia Genootschap or Batavia Society, Museum Nasional of Indonesia now, to kind of like documenting their collection, and after see the success in the photography of Batavia Society of Art collection, Skinsbergen then commissioned to take photograph on the Borobudur reliefs, kind of like continuing the initial project, which was supposed to be done by Cipher. And the next one that we want to mention is of course Cassian Cephas. He was a local born local. His mother is Japanese. Before he began his career in the photography of archaeological monument, he was previously a court photographer for the palace of Awal Abad in Jakarta. And then after that, he hired by the local archaeological society in Jakarta to be a photographer in their excavation, which is indeed began popular during the last half of the 19th century, especially the excavation in Prambanan, basically a cleaning work in the main temple of Prambanan complex, and as well as Borobudur excavation during the 1889 until 1890. Also, Kinsbergen and Cephas has done other photographing effort and project such as in Dieng Plateau, in West Java, and in Bali, using metallurgian process. Their work was considered as success and capable to bring attention from the community around the world, especially in Europe, especially through the World Exhibition in Paris. And entering the 20th century, the previously photographing effort, which was brought by the private institution or societies, is now became more centralized by the foundation of the institutions of archaeology by Dutch government. The first one is Commissie Netherlands in Netherlands in Adet-Kundig of Java and Madura, and continued with its broader successor of Adet-Kundig Dienst. So during the 1901 until 1949, their photographing archive was reached as much as 25,000 in number, and it's with various objects and qualities. Yeah, and this one is the image of the Cipher Photograph. This is the daguerreotype, as I say, which is using silver plate. And this one is the photograph by Isidore van Kinsbergen. As we can see here, that the reason behind a lot of prize in Kinsbergen's work is that he used a lot of consideration, intended placement, and lighting to kind of like an artistic values of his photograph. This one is a statue and reliefs in Borobudur. And this one is the photograph by Kees and Cephas, and we can see what's of his signature in his photograph is that he often include himself in the photograph that he credited for. And this one is the photograph, the famous photograph, actually, the series of the hiddenness of Borobudur that become the only source for us to kind of like see the reliefs. This relief is now is covered by its past. And this one, yeah, I know it's kind of like oversimplified for me to kind of like give an explanation about the complexity of the photograph taken by OG, but here I want to emphasize I want to give a picture about the series of OD or OD photographs. So OD photographs is referred to the photograph taken by Adet-Kundig Commissie as well as Adet-Kundig Dienst. Yeah, in this one we see, for example, an inventory statue, the new phone of the bronze in Nganjuk, as well as temple reconstructions and temple ornaments in their photographic series. Yeah, so now speaking of the values in this photograph, why these photographers massively used and in the first place. Okay, so compared to the other method of reproductions or documentations, photograph is considered to be more objective since it is basically a mechanical process, even though it is of course debatable. The second one is that photograph can be duplicated in many forms, especially with the invention of negative process as well as mechanical printing. And the portability of photographs is the value of accessibility. Some of the archaeological objects, such as temple architecture, of course, is not easily to be moved. So sometimes the photograph is the only possible source for us to kind of like analyze it. And with good preservation, photograph is durable. Even now we can still see the 100 years old photograph. Yeah, from that values, I see several usage of photographs in the context of Indonesian archaeology before independence. The first one, of course, the primary one is the tool for documentation, but among others, there are another examples such as it's used for complementary in publications as object substitution as well as archive for restoration. We're going to talk about it on detail in the case. Yeah. Okay. So even though the photograph was entrusted as a tool for documentation, as for its objectivity, the debate is happening, especially regarding whether the quality of photograph is suitable enough, especially compared with the traditional documentation such as illustration. And we found an interesting case here is the documentation of the throne in Kalasan Temple in Jakarta. Besides the photograph, it is of course not as good as the photographs nowadays with high quality, etc. Yeah, this photograph is not quite good. It is basically because the throne is inside the temple, which is dark. In that case, Brandes, the writer about who talk about the throne in Kalasan Temple, he not only used its photograph, but he also commissioned an illustration of the throne. So it is kind of like the one complemented the other. The photograph might show the fidelity, but the illustration kind of like show the clear image of the throne. And in this case is an example. This one is the example of the photograph as a publication, as a complementary publication. This one is the book published by Auditing Committee, and as well as the famous book of Describing Van Borobudur, written by Angkor after the restoration of Borobudur in 1907 until 1911. Okay, so this one we find an example of how photograph became an object substitution. This photograph is a relief in the hidden base of Borobudur. Inscription on top of the relief of the hidden base. So for Kern, who analyzes the inscriptions, he used this photograph since the inscription is no longer can be analyzed since it's covered back with its base. Meanwhile, in this photograph of sculpture, is a photograph that's used by Bernard Campers when he was finishing his thesis about the bronze of Nalanda and its counterpart in Java. He used this photograph publication because that time he was still in Dutch, and then most of his study object was in Indonesia and in India. So yeah, we see here an example of how photographical documentation became the source for analytical study of the style of statues. And this one is how the photography became helping in temple reconstruction. Basically, the reason is that photography sometimes kept the transformational conditions of an object, whether it is a statues or temple architecture, etc. And in this particular case of the reconstruction of Prambanan of Siwa Temple in Prambanan complex, there are some interesting cases because besides that the temple itself is naturally decayed with the natural transformation, it's also terribly handled when Gunman tried to clean the temple, which is sheltered in make the reconstruction, which began in 1918 quite hard because the stone is moved in the side of the sides, and it is kind of like it is kind of like difficult to kind of like reconstruct the temple. So Van Rommel, the supervisor of the reconstruction, mentioned that he used Cipher Photograph, which is taken around the time of the cleaning to help him in oversee the stone of the Prambanan reconstruction. Okay, based on Yeah, so there are some concluding remarks that I can take based on the explanation. The first one is that photography have been used in Indonesian archaeology during the colonial early stage and continued long after until Indonesia gained independent. In fact, that the best is done during the colonial period was what made the Indonesian archaeology quite developed, established after Indonesia gains independence, continuing the exact same institution as during the colonial period. Other point is that these old photographs are preserved for the rich historical values. It is because that this photograph is part of building blocks that's built Indonesian archaeology in general. And the last one is that the photograph also can be used along with other new photographs to build a digital database. Yeah, I'm not saying that this photograph is better than the new photograph, but we still can see formal value, value in which this photograph is still can be useful for us, especially in this digital era and its internet. And this photograph might be useful if we digitize it and publish it in the internet. Yeah, I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for your time and attention. And if we can discuss it any further with the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmad. It seems that the photographic materials that you research on are found in various institutions, such as Leiden University libraries. So you did well to trace them across many storage collections. Thank you also, Dharakorn and Arsenio, and you, the audience, for participating in this session. First of all, I would turn to this question from a Ratchaporn test chip. Yeah, it comes from RT. Question to Arsenio. The number of gongs such as 6, 8, 9, as illustrated in your presentation, what do those numbers represent? Arsenio, you are on mute. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
As I indicated earlier, the number of gongs would indicate the number of tones or the number of tones in the scale. And normally, if 6, you will have just 1 octave. And then 8 or 9, you might have 3 additional or 2 additional tones. But if you go higher, like 13, 15, 16, 18, then you are talking about 2 octaves already. And that will be a different study of the tuning and the scale system of the different types of gongs in a row and also gong circles in Southeast Asia. And that will be another project in the future. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. This question is addressed to Dharakorn. Is Labnotation now a formalized system to document dance in Thailand?
Yes, okay, thank you for question. The Labnotation until the present, we can use to record and analyze for especially in Thai classical dance. The pioneer of the Labnotation in Thailand is Professor Shomanati Khan. She start the research to recording Thai classical dance vocabulary in Labnotation and bring the open and the Labnotation community in Thailand. Okay.
Thank you. And so it's Labnotation part of the educational curriculum in the study of dance in Thailand?
For in Thailand, in the university or college, we did not teach the Labnotation in the course. Yes, because I think the new generation scholars think the Labnotation is the hard for learn and writing in the symbol in the dance movement. Yes, we use the video and mobile phone for recording the dance movement too easy to the record by symbol. Yes.
Thank you. Arsenio, there's a question for you. Since the evidence suggests that the Angkor Wat reliefs were not carved in a single reign or period, there must be representations of musical instruments from different eras on the reliefs. Is that an obvious and correct understanding?
Yes, that is how I gather it from my readings, except that I have not been able to locate the sources of the dating of each wing, because if you go through the pictures, if you go to Angkor Wat, you will find that each swing has a different artistic style, and that means that they were, as I said, they were carved by different groups of artists, and they were commissioned certainly during different periods in the history, from at least the 12th century to the 16th century. So that is the job, I think, of the archaeologists or those who are studying the styles of bas-reliefs. And I have not read anything on, I searched on all the articles on Angkor Wat, and the only one with dating is this one on the north wing, north gallery, east wing.
So then were some of those original reliefs worked over, edited, so to speak, even to the effect that the original has been modified?
I don't know about that. There is no indication of that. Modification is different than, it's been there for some time, and there are no indications of modification of the bas-reliefs.
Thank you. Let's turn to Ahmad. Question for Ahmad: will there be, or has there been major exhibitions of the collection of historical photographs that you referred to in your presentation?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not quite aware about the exhibition, especially if it referred to the recent exhibition of this old photograph, but the recent effort that's done with this photograph is digitization effort, which mostly done by the Leiden University Library, which hold the majority of the photograph, especially OD and KTLV collections. But besides, other copies also available in Indonesia, in National Gallery of Indonesia. And yeah, I think the major effort that done to preserve this photograph is mostly about the conservation and the digitization. As well for exhibition, I'm not quite aware about the exhibition.
Yeah. Well, it would be an interesting idea to consider for Indonesia to put up a major exhibitions of these historical artifacts.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting. Yeah, I think that's interesting, because this photograph is actually a huge resource for Indonesian archaeologists. It's not only documenting the artifact, but it's kind of like documenting the archaeological development of Indonesia. Yeah, it's giving the set. So for exhibiting this photograph, it kind of like back to the past to see the development of archaeology. It is quite interesting. It's interesting.
Thank you, Ahmad. We have a question from Mark Ritchie to all panelists. In cultural studies, there is the concept of embodied memory. How do dance, musical instruments, and photography trigger the collective memory of a culture group? Could you describe which specific imageries of such collective memories are connected to your presentations?
Shall I answer first?
It requires reflection. Yes, I know.
Well, you see, there's a big gap from the 12th, 16th century to the present century. So what we can talk about collective memory is quite disjunct. They're not connected actually. We only knew all this, we knew only about Angkor Wat, Borobudur, Prambanan, only today, based on the excavations, and then on the, as what Pa Ahmad has shown us on the photographs, early photographs, and on the reconstruction of all the dances. But there is, we are talking about several hundred years of development in dance and monumental design, architecture, and music. So that collective memory in cultural studies does not really, to me, does not apply because of this time frame, time depth, as it is called in archaeology.
Yeah, mainly because of the time frame.
Yes, it's quite different.
Yeah. So yes, also there's a continuing question in relation to the previous question is, can the rise of new media contribute to perpetuating collective memories brought about by dance, music, and photography? And I suppose new media also include, for example, for dance, now there is this system of using the camera. You place sensors on a model's body, and then you use the camera to capture the points and recompile the movements in real time. So the question is, can new media contribute to these collective memories? Any comments? If you need reflection, you could also respond. I believe you can do so in the Q&A box. There is a no, I think that's we're done. Are there any other? Oh wait, sorry, I missed out this earlier. There was a conversation between Katie and Dharakorn in the Q&A. Dharakorn answered. It was a long conversation. I would like to share it with the audience, but Dharakorn can choose to provide a brief, short answer to the question. And the question is about archaeological dance. In the early 20th century period, Mei Lang Fang was creating new dance based on Dong Huang painting in China and in Cambodia in the 1950s and 60s. We were seeing the Apsara dance with costumes from Angkor being created by the Queen Mother Kosamak. Were all these people inspiring each other, or was the idea of these archaeological choreographies created separately? Dharakorn?
Okay, thank you. In my opinion, the dance creation of Mei Lang Fang in the early 20th century is not related in the dance from Thailand or the Cambodia is not related to, because the early of the 20th century period, the Thai classical dance artists are learned and performed in the court dance from the dance master in the King Rama 6 and 7. I think the dance creation is not separate. Yes. So this theory of archaeological dance is the new idea in the middle of the 20th century. The goals of this dance for showing the historical and antiques and ancient side of Thailand. After that, the new generation of classical dance artists bring this dance to apply with the other events and festival in Thailand after 1960 forward. Yes. And series of dance is model to another dance creation in Thailand and represent to the pride heritage of master and dance artists of Thailand. At the present, the series of dance are showing the any occasion in Thailand or in abroad. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dharakorn. We have a question, a very good question from Jerry Canal to Ahmad. Besides Leiden University Library, are there other photographic collections out there that would be useful for archaeological records in Indonesia and also useful to Simeo SPAFA as a regional center?
Yeah, so if you refer to the old photograph of the as I present, I try to follow where these photographs was recently stored, and it is true not that the majority of the photograph is actually the history is that the collection was given to an institute, which is an institute founded by Dharakorn in University of Leiden, and then they give the set of photograph collection to the Leiden University Library, and it's not only include the OD photograph, but it also include other photographs such as photograph taken by us and etc. This is the reason why the majority of the photograph and its digitization can be accessed to the Leiden University Library. But other than that, the rest of the collection is in Indonesia, in National Gallery of Indonesia. There are around 3,000, I guess, the negative of the photograph. But it is such unfortunate that this photograph is still not accessible yet. We don't have the digitized versions of it, and yeah. But if you are referring to new photographs such as the photograph taken with this current technology of digital photography, I'm not quite sure for the source which provide a complete photograph such as the photograph in Leiden University Library. Mostly it is just a museum website which posting their collection, but in such a very limited amount. Yeah.
May I comment on that?
Sure.
Yes, I'm reminded by my fieldwork in Java, in Borobudur, and in Prambanan, and in Pangandaran. That was also in 2009. And if I examine the pictures from the Dutch collection, there's been really a lot of changes because of the corrosion on the bas-reliefs. For example, just the gong alone, the gong in Pangandaran in the collection in the picture by Katz, which is published by Kunst, you can still see the middle section. But when I went to Pangandaran, the middle section is already carved out. Apparently, people are really just playing with the bas-relief. So I think also it will be also the job of the archaeological Puspanat in Indonesia to safeguard the integrity and the not the originality, but how can you preserve the stone? I know that in Borobudur they're very successful now, but in other temples in Java, it's quite still a problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. While we deliberated on the question of new media, there has been some posting on the chat, and in case the audience missed it, Noel has suggested considering TikTok and Instagram be adapted to use as research or records of archaeology and dance. Yes, thank you very much, Dharakorn, Arsenio, and Ahmad.
Just one more thing, please. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to relay this to Dharakorn. Here at the College of Music and at the Department of Dance in Master University, there is a yearly festival of student recitals. And the students are very, especially the dance department, have been very creative in recreating all these types of dances that you mentioned, Chawrawati, Lokberi, and Supai dances, in addition to the contemporary style in Bangkok today. So you might be interested to search on Facebook especially. These are already posted on Facebook, the videos. And in my own Facebook, I have pictures of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and contributions, Arsenio. And thanks to our panelists, Dharakorn, Arsenio, and Ahmad, and you as well, the audience, for participating in this session. Please join us soon for the next session tomorrow, Friday, session 5-1 on 17 December, which will start at 10 Bangkok time and will feature Bob Huxon, Chung Pham, and Ria Kusuma, who will make presentations ranging from old Burmese weights, displaying religious objects and social distancing, and cultural heritage management innovations in East Java province, respectively. Thank you all, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.